Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Kevin Gong. I'm a senior here, as Mary described, and my talk is on the City 2.0. So first of all, what is the City 2.0? A short tweetable definition is basically a city of the future that's created through citizen-powered change. During my 4 years here at Berkeley, I've been increasingly interested in how citizens can become agents of change. And I also explored more of these through the 3 courses that I took for course threads. So the first course I took, as many of you guys know, is Global Poverty, Anani Roy's class here, and through that I learned about how citizens can participate in poverty alleviation. I also took ECON 155, which is Urban Economics, taught by Professor Klein. In this one, we explored how citizens consume and use public goods in urban environments. And finally, I took City Planning 110, Introduction to City Planning, taught by Professor Buckley. And this one explored how citizens use urban spaces and how we interact with the urban spaces around us. So I personally believe that as individuals, we can have significant impacts on our cities. And one point I love to make always, as an econ major, is the Shelley model. So the Shelley model was proposed several decades ago to explain how racial segregation was happening in residential neighborhoods. So how the model works is it's a grid of blue and red squares. So the blue squares prefer being next to other blue squares by a tiny, tiny fraction. So in 100 cases, they prefer being next to a blue square 51 out of 100 times. And the red square likewise also had a very small preference for being next to other red squares. So what happens, how the model works is you mix it every time and you only take into consideration each individual square's preference. So what happens if you increase the number of mixes is that you find there's increasing segregation, and by the end there is basically total segregation. So the point of my talk is not to talk about segregation, but what I love about this model and the point that it makes is that each of our tiny preferences has a huge impact when we take it all together and consider it in the total society. So how can we actually make our cities better? One important way is to build communities. One of my favorite artists is Candy Chang. She's an artist based in New Orleans, and she uses everyday objects such as sticky notes, chalk, stickers to make our public spaces more inviting. One of her projects was called I Wish This Was. She basically took these like name badge stickers almost, like instead of my name is, it was I wish this was, and gave them to people and let them use them however they wanted to. Pretty quickly, people realized that this is a very effective way to express your desires about your community and how you want it to be changed. So here you can see a lot of different uses. What's great about this is that it's actually not a digital platform, because whenever you have a digital platform, that automatically excludes a very large user base, especially when you consider the community that lives in New Orleans. So this is a fantastic way to let the community express how they want their surrounding to be changed. I love this one. And Candy Chang's probably most famous project is Before I Die. She took a rundown building near her home in New Orleans and put panels of chalkboard on the side. And then she used spray paint to etch the words, "Before I die, I want to blank." Within a few days, the wall was completely filled, and it soon became a cultural icon within the community because it allowed people to express their dreams and desires in an anonymous way. If anyone's been on Facebook this morning, this has been making the rounds on social media. An anti-child abuse organization in Spain put up these billboards recently. This is targeted to children whose parents are actually their abusers. They consider the fact that children will most likely be walking around with their parents when they see this billboard. So how this actually works is the parent and the child see different messages. The parent sees the billboard right there, and it just says sometimes child abuse is only visible to the child suffering it. However, they designed the billboard so that anyone under 1.35 meters, which is most children, are actually able to see a phone number that they can call for support. So in addition to building communities, it's also important to make cities better through fun things. A lot of you probably have seen this already, piano stairs. This was started in Sweden, and they added pressure pads to a set of stairs right next to escalators. And what they found is that people just absolutely loved the stairs. People started taking the stairs instead of the escalators. People were like trying to make songs out of the stairs, which didn't work too well because you have to jump a lot. And there's also, of course, the pinball machine. This is a proposed form of exercise at bus stops, so you have something to keep your mind off of waiting while you're at bus stops. This is something that I helped design when I was a designer at the Social Apps Lab at Citrus here at Berkeley. This is called Bingo Walk. This is targeted towards senior citizens to get them to walk more, exercise more, explore their communities through a location-based iPad bingo game. And this is a really cool project. This is started by Kevin Richardson. It's called Speed Camera. This was pilot tested in Stockholm, Sweden. So it's right there on the left. That's the speed camera. And what it does is for any car that goes over the speed limit, it takes a photo of the car and issues a citation. However, for everyone who's under the speed limit, they're automatically entered into a lottery to win money from those people who did get a citation. So it was really cool. Over the course of 3 days, over 20,000 cars passed this speed camera, and he actually managed to decrease the average speed of the passing cars from 32 kilometers per hour to 25 kilometers per hour, which was within the speed limit. And finally, this is one of my favorites. This is not real, but this is a proposed bridge to be built in France, trampoline bridge. Basically, not only is it very fun, but it's also very cost-effective compared to traditional bridges, and it has a lower environmental impact compared to traditional bridges. An increasingly big part of making cities better is using data. I love data. I'm a stats major. Absolutely love it. So this is called OpenPaths. This is a project started by the New York Times, and it's also an app that you can download on your phone. What you're seeing is my actual movements within the past week. This was when I went to California Academy of Sciences on Thursday night. So basically what this does, it's an app that runs in the background of your iPhone. It logs your latitude and longitude, and then you can visualize where you've been for the past week, past months, and you can even donate the data to scientists who are using the data for papers. For those of you who use Foursquare, Foursquare also compiled their data and created this visualization that shows how people move in New York City, how the ebb and flow works, what people do in New York City, and just the general movement around the city. This is another transportation-based data initiative that shows how it's like riding different bus lines. You can change it by city, and you can see how many buses come per bus line, how many people get on, get off. And then this is one of my favorites. This is a virtual grocery store. It's mostly in South Korea right now, but there is a pilot being tested in Chicago right now. Basically, this is located in the subway station in South Korea, and what you can do is when you're waiting for the train or when you're walking to or from somewhere, each of those items that you see on the wall has a QR code underneath it. If you want an item, simply take a picture of it with your with your camera, and then the item will be delivered to your door within a few days. So I'd also like to tell you a bit about somewhere that I traveled in the past year. So I've been the curator of TEDx Berkeley for the past 3 years, and in April of 2012, I was invited to go to Doha, Qatar, for a global gathering of 700 TEDx organizers from around the world. So I've barely been outside the US before, so to be in the Middle East was something completely new to me. Doha is an amazing city, but also walking around the city, it's very clear that it's still a city that's finding a way to balance its cultural history, its cultural roots, and the promises of technology, which is the story of many cities around the world. But even there were just small innovations that we could see happening. So this was one of them. This is a water bottle recycler. If you recycle a bottle of water, it gives you a token, and then you can enter that token into a nearby lottery and win prizes. So in closing, I think it's very easy when we deal with cities to fall into the trap of cynicism and blame our discontents on the local government, on the lack of budget, and make it not about ourselves. But ultimately, as active users of cities, as people who walk through them every day, we have the power to change, even on a very small scale. So in closing, I believe that people matter and that we can make our cities better. Thank you.